Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. We're going to be in part two of the how to reach your fitness goals in 2026 and how to get into the best shape of your life. I did a part one a couple of weeks ago, so go back and listen to that one if you haven't yet. I really want to do a deep dive episode where we're going to be talking about exactly what you need to be focusing on and how you can use this, even outside of just like fitness and nutrition, and how you can apply this to things in your life and truly get everything that you want out of life. I think that it's so important that you have some sort of system and some sort of strategy for how you're approaching anything that you want in life. If you are just going with the flow and you are living in your comfort zone, you're not going to get the outcome that you want. And you need to have a crystal clear understanding of what it is that you want, the identity that you have to live in, and the intentions behind your actions in order to actually see the outcome that you want. So I'm going to kind of dive through the different things that I've done in my life and how I've applied this to running a business, into growing a business, and how I have grown not only a social media, a podcast, become a content creator, and done all of the things that I once dreamt about doing, as well as, in my opinion, living in one of the fittest and healthiest versions of myself, where I not only feel very lean and feel like the fittest version of myself, but I truly feel like my digestion's never been better, my overall health's never been better, and just like the way that I show up for myself is exponentially better than what it was years ago. And I'm living in the version of myself that I always dreamt about. And I want to help you do the same, whether that is through a business decision, if that is through a career path, personal life, or primarily what I love to talk about, which is fitness and nutrition and helping you reach that outcome and that goal. But I think that this rule can apply to anything and you can apply it in any capacity. It's a matter of understanding and it's a matter of clarity. And if you're lacking that, you're not going to be able to have a clear direction of where to go. You're not going to know what to do. And when it gets challenging, it's going to be easier to quit. So we're going to dive into the different topics on that. So I'm going to break that down and talk about the ways that you need to apply these things in your life and the three different methods or the three different things that are required in order for this change to happen. First thing I think is so important to understand is that I actually did a post on this and I'll link the post in the show notes because I think it's really important that everyone kind of thinks about the decisions that they're making as truly decisions and not necessarily a timing thing. There is truly not a perfect time to make any decision. You are making a decision by either not taking action or by taking action. And by the end of the day, if you're saying it's coming down to a timing thing, it's not that I don't necessarily think that timing isn't important, but I do think that timing is often an excuse because of fear or because of lack of clarity or lack of direction or just being too afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. And I think that if you are always finding that yourself saying that you're procrastinating or you're waiting for the right time and right now is not the right time, then you need to kind of take a deeper look at what is preventing you from taking the next step, because right now you are living in a place of safety and in your comfort zone. And if you are either avoiding going to the gym, if you're avoiding changing up your nutrition, if you're constantly researching and looking for more information, trying to build things out yourself and just waiting before you take action, you are holding yourself back. And bigger than that, I think it's so important to remember that I saw a quote the other day, and I think it's a good way to kind of approach everything in your life. And it was something like, every day is an opportunity to try again, but it's also one less day in your life. And I think it's so important that you actually approach your life as if you have one life and as if you have no idea what's going to happen. Because the truth is, there's so much uncertainty. You don't know when you're going to die. You don't know when your last day is. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't even know what's going to happen today. You really just go in with so much uncertainty and so much faith that things are going to work out. And if you are constantly not taking action because you think that in 5 years that you're going to be able to do it or it's going to be a better time, you have no idea and you have no understanding of what's actually going to happen. You can just think about it. So the only thing that you can do right now is give yourself permission to take action versus giving yourself only permission to make a plan, because your plan is preventing you from taking any sort of action that's going to move you from where you are right now to where you want to be. And if you're not living in the reality that you want right now, it is going to be up to you to take the action. It's going to be up to you to figure out how you can actually start moving towards that direction. Because if you're just staying stagnant and you're not doing anything, you're not going to be moving in that direction. You're not going to be changing the outcome that you want. And you can't be upset when change doesn't happen because you're not applying anything that's challenging, that's requiring change to happen. You're just going to stay the same. And that's just how that works. So you have to make sure that you have a good understanding of what the goal is that you want to achieve, but that you're finding ways to take daily action, even if it's just small action. It doesn't have to be perfect action. It doesn't have to have so much clarity that you know exactly what you have to do. And it doesn't mean that you have to do everything perfect in order for it to count. What really matters is just putting putting in effort and taking action. So I want to break this down into 3 different parts because I think it's really important to understand them individually and see how they work together. And this, like I said, applies to everything, but I'm specifically going to point it towards fitness and nutrition because that's what I want to teach you about and what I want to coach you about. So the first is motion. It is motion and action. It is required for something to change and for something to evolve, to have motion and to have action. Something in motion stays in motion. So when you think about it, when you are trying to apply something in your life, if you are wanting to be a morning person, if you're wanting to go to the gym, if you're just thinking about taking that action, but you're not actually taking that action, it's always just going to be a thought and you're going to stay the same. But once you have to kind of get it going and get it in motion, then it can evolve and then it can grow because now you've put yourself into motion, you put yourself into action, and you started taking that baby step towards the bigger goal that you want. Maybe you're not going to get there from taking one step, but if you do that 100 times over, you're more likely to stay consistent because now you've pushed yourself out of stagnation into motion. That's just how the first step works, is you have to get out of the state of indecision. You have to get out of the state of thinking about it and planning for it and waiting for the perfect aha moment and kind of build it yourself. Because once you get into motion, you get more clarity because now you are seeing things from a different light. You are taking more action. Once you kind of get into motion, you get more confidence, you get more clarity because you're building that confidence through action. I am a big believer that you do not build confidence through getting more information. You build intelligence that way, but you build confidence through action. If you actually want to feel confident, if you want to feel like you know what you're doing, you have to personally go and take the steps and do the actions. You cannot watch somebody else do it. That does not build confidence in yourself. That just builds understanding. So if you are feeling not confident going to the gym, or you're not feeling confident in your nutrition choices, or you're not feeling confident in what direction to be taking, whether that is changing up your training plan, or if it's hiring a coach or whatever that looks like, it is required of you to kind of get into the state of motion and start taking action and start making decisions instead of just kind of waiting on the sidelines, hoping that it's going to fall on your plate and it's just going to feel like it's the right thing and you just go into it and there's no discomfort. Change does not evolve that way and does not happen that way. Oftentimes there is pain, there's discomfort, there's challenges, and it's a matter of pushing through and growing through that so that you can become a different person. And I think it's really important you understand that in order to become the person that you want to be, you have to go through trials and you have to go through change because the person that you are now is not the person that you're striving to be. And they're completely separate, whether it's through experience, whether it's through building confidence. But the person that you want to be, you still have to live in that identity so that you can start to become that person and build that confidence and start to learn what actually is going to happen. Because like I said, you're going to have so much uncertainty about what's going to happen. And you could try something and it could be completely different than you thought, whether that's good or bad. It could be your comfort zone telling you that it's going to be much scarier than it actually is. Or you could get there and realize maybe that's not exactly what I want to do and I need to pivot and take a different direction. And that's okay too. But you wouldn't have known that if you didn't take that first step. So it's really important that you understand the first step is motion and action. And if you are staying stagnant, you will continue in stagnation. But if you are able to get into motion, you will continue through momentum and motion will continue. What is in motion stays in motion. And that's how you grow and that's how you develop. The second part is your energy. And I think this is probably the most crucial aspect of any sort of change that's going to happen. I mean, motion, if you're not taking motion, you're not going to see change like we talked about. But I do think that the energy that you show up with is exponentially going to determine the outcome that you get. Because even if you get into motion and even if you start taking action, if you show up with a negative energy, you show up with disbelief in yourself, you don't show up with any confidence, you are going to determine your outcome. And I think if you have positive energy, your outcome is solely dependent on the energy that you show up with and the energy that you tell yourself and make yourself believe, because now you are kind of dictating your reality. I am a very big believer that the things you tell yourself, that the beliefs that you have, that the negativity that you hold or the positivity that you hold directly correlates and manifests itself, and you will directly create your outcome based on the energy that you have and the energy that you show up with. So if you're constantly showing up with negativity, if you don't believe in yourself, if you tell yourself it's not going to work out, then you are right. And if you tell yourself that it is going to work out, that you can grow and that you can become the person that you want, you can lose the weight, you can build muscle mass, you are right. And it's a matter of actually believing what you're saying and finding a way to build confidence through action, but to also build confidence through positive self-talk and by telling yourself the reality that you want and making sure that it's always present, it's always known, and that you can live in abundance. I am a very big believer, whether it's woo-woo-y or not, that the world has a massive amount of abundance, and there's no limitation to the amount of money that you can make, the goals that you can accomplish, that anything that you speak into existence and that you want, you can have. Because if somebody else has it, I believe that there is a place in the world where you can have it too. It's just a matter of matching and aligning yourself to that frequency and thinking of that outcome and living in that identity and living in that outcome that you want by making those decisions now before it feels perfect. Because if you tell yourself that I'm going to go to the gym when I feel confident, that confidence is never going to come if you don't first get into motion and if you don't second believe in yourself and believe that you are somebody who can be confident in the gym and who can show up and just take action, even if it's uncomfortable. Because the first time you do anything, it's going to be uncomfortable. I am a big believer that, well, think about the first time you did a presentation at school, the first time you had to go to a new event, or that you were showing up to maybe a new school or a new grade. It's uncomfortable and it makes you feel like you have butterflies in your stomach. And it's a normal feeling. And I think that is something that you will have for the rest of your life, anything that you try to do, because being a beginner is the fee to entry. You have to be a beginner at everything you do, and you have to learn how to build confidence and build your direction and build your momentum through taking action before you are ready. And by making that decision, the decision and by making you are ready, the decision that you want something more for yourself, the decision that you don't want to live in your old habits, you want to have non-negotiables for yourself, you want to keep promises to yourself. These are all decisions that you can just wake up and make at any point in time and change the direction of your life. It's not a perfect timing thing. It's not well, I'm not quite ready that yet, so I guess I'll just have to wait. It is a true decision that you are going to live in that outcome and you're going to live in that reality because you woke up and decided to. And that comes from your energy. If you're showing up with negativity, if you're showing up telling yourself that you can't do it, if you tell yourself you can't lose the weight, you are right. At the end of the day, what you tell yourself will dictate your reality, because you either won't show up and do the work because you already don't think you can do it, or you might not put in fully, you might be in an on-off cycle where you put in a little bit of effort. When it doesn't pay off, you fall off track and you just don't think it'll ever happen for you. And it's because you're allowing yourself to live in the energy of belief that you're not going to be able to achieve it. And so when you fall off track, you don't worry about it. You come into that energy that's negative, that I won't have this anyways, so I might as well live my life this way. And you have to get out of that state and truly believe and speak the positive energy into the reality that you want, and start making those results inevitable because you believe that they're inevitable and that you deserve to have them. And then the last one is intention. If you are showing up without intention, without direction, and without clarity in the decision that you're making, you cannot be upset when the outcome is not the one that you expected. If you're showing up to your workouts and you're winging it every single week, if you're not planning your meals and you're just eating whatever at the time you're hungry, if you're going into your week with zero plan and zero idea of what's going to play out, you're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, you cannot be upset when the outcome is not what you expected, even if the effort was there, because there's no intention or intentionality behind the decisions that you're making. And therefore, they're not tied to a bigger outcome. They're not tied to the specific outcome that you want. And that lack of alignment is going to lead towards whatever you throw out there. It doesn't mean that if you're eating really clean, you're going to lose weight. There's so many things that are required of alignment in your nutrition, in your training, in your daily activity for those things to happen. And if you're not maintaining a certain step goal to help with your deficit, if you're not doing cardio for fat loss, if you're not training with resistance to build muscle mass, your body is not in alignment towards the goal that you want, which is fat loss. And therefore, you are not going to get the outcome you want, no matter if you're showing up every single day, if you're eating clean, and if you're doing the actions and the effort. You have to have intentionality behind the things that you're doing and the reason why you're doing them, and know that they are tied to a bigger outcome. That's where we have to tie in the bigger identity and understanding where you are coming from, what you want to achieve, and what that person has, how they live their life. So you can break those down into what is your non-negotiable, what does your plan need to look like, what does your reality need to look like on a daily basis, because action, energy, and intention are all going to dictate how you get to that outcome. And if you don't have those and they're jumbled, you're lacking action, you have negative energy, and you have zero intention, How can you be upset when the outcome is not what you expected or not what you wanted? It has no alignment and it has no ability to manifest itself into the reality you want because it does not work together. And because what you're doing, regardless of the amount of effort, is not tied to the outcome that you want. And it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, it's not going to get you the outcome you want if those pieces don't align and if you don't have intentionality behind the things that you're doing. I always like to give this example because I think it's a really easy way to understand what I mean behind intentionality. Somebody can work 2 to 4 hours a day and be exponentially more successful than somebody that works maybe 15 hours a day because they were super intentional about the things that they focused on. They knew that the outcome of the actions that they were working on were tied to a specific goal, and they made sure that they were only taking action and only putting in effort on the things that were going to drive success and make sure that it was worth their time and worth their effort versus somebody who can spend 15 hours at work, even if they're bouncing between tasks, if they're not being productive, if they're scrolling Instagram, if they're constant distractions and they don't really have an effort tied to the intention behind what they're doing. You could work all day long and not get to that outcome just because you're not focused and you don't have enough intention. And this is one of the biggest things I always tell my clients is if you want a specific outcome, that intention has to be driven and that has to be something so clear that you just know what to be focusing on. It's not a matter of just doing as much as you possibly can, working out as much as you possibly can, and eating as little as possible. That's going to drive success. It's a matter of making sure that your calories are in line along with your macros for the goal that you want. Is it enough protein to sustain and build muscle mass? Are you in enough of a deficit to lose body fat? Are you training at an activity level that's challenging, that's going to allow you to add to your deficit so you don't have to pull so much from your calories? Are you training at a resistance level that's going to allow you to maintain and build muscle mass? Is your plan aligned to your lifestyle so that you can be consistent long term? Because being consistent with something over and over and over again is what drives success, not being able to show up for something that's really challenging only a couple of times a week. And I always like to kind of tie this to 75 hard because I know so many people do 75 hard at the beginning of the year, but I also know that it's one of the most challenging plans to do. And it's actually got a 90% failure rate because it requires so much of you. It has you put in so much effort and it's not necessarily tied to an outcome or an intention. It's just motion. And it's sometimes motion that doesn't matter and it's effort that doesn't matter. And when you don't get the outcome that you want, you're fatigued, regardless of the fact that you were putting in a ton of effort. It's not tied to a specific goal. It's not going to necessarily get you the outcome that you think about or that you want. It's focused solely on motion and action. And it doesn't necessarily have the intentionality to drive success. And it's also very challenging to keep up because it doesn't tie into your lifestyle. It just pushes you to take more action and push effort and do as much as you possibly can. So I think that's where you need to look at your plan and ask yourself, where are you going wrong with one of these three categories? Are you not taking enough action? Are you not making enough decisions? Are you not doing things before you feel ready? Are you focused on a negative energy over a positive energy? Or do you have a negative outlook at the outcome that you want or a belief that you're not going to be able to achieve it? Or are you lacking intentionality? Do you not have the structure or the strategy behind your training and your nutrition that's supporting you to get to that bigger outcome goal that you want? And how can you make sure that you tie those things together, build that identity that you want, know what it is and have that clarity, and just start taking action and imperfect action right now, even if it's just baby steps and you're building it along the way. If this is something you're stuck with, I have my free guide down below that's going to walk you through why you're stuck, whether that is your nutrition, your training, your daily habits, or the three things that we talked about today. If you're lacking structure, strategy, and kind of walk you through a checklist of how you can build this out, understand what you're stuck with and solving that problem. And then there's also a training tied to that will walk you through why you're stuck and how to make your results inevitable. So you can grab that information down below in the show notes. I want to finish this episode off by sharing that we are going to be doing a scholarship for one-on-one coaching. This is my first scholarship that I've ever run, and I am so excited about it. If you're hearing this, there's a very short window for applications based on when this podcast episode is released. So if you're interested in a scholarship for coaching, this is going to be a 90-day transformation that's going to allow you to get coaching with me and to get into my one-on-one transformation program. And you can sign up down below. There's a scholarship application where you can fill in all the information and tell me why you want to be sponsored, why you should win this scholarship. This is open to current clients and this is open to new applications as well. And I will be announcing the scholarship winners this next week. So if you're wanting a scholarship for January and for the new year, you can find the application down below. That will give you all the information for signing up for the scholarship, and then I will be announcing winners in the next week. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast episode, and I will talk to you next week in the next episode.